Hi there. So, as promised, I thought I'd give you a quick tour and commentary of Glendale's garden projects as of late spring, early summer 2020. So, I'll talk you around as we look at the various areas.
The courtyard garden hasn't changed an awful lot since last year. We've left the perennials in, so we've got things like this Salvia now, which is doing very, very well, and we've added some euonymus and some white buddleias at the back there. Had a bit of a problem with this particular bed. Something's ravaged the Acer, so that's only half the size it was last year, but hopefully it will recover at some point, or very slowly. And we've also got a problem with this particular evergreen as well. The main bed always looks sort of bright and almost acid bright this time of year. Really pleased with this particular bunch of planting. It's actually, I think the plant name is something like sort of fizzy lemon. We've added a few more ferns because we quite like the look of those. They look as if they're struggling, but actually the brown is new growth, so that looks promising. We've added again some more of these euonymus that we like. The Acer seems to have come back to full strength as well, which is always lovely to see, as with this one here. A few pots. Again, we've had some early success with the rose at the back there, and then we've added a few more dahlias this year. We love the colour from them this time last year. This sort of bed, not so good. I think it struggled. One or two things have died off, so we need to perhaps do some interplanting. But we'll see how that goes. And the one over here, the Acer here, we bought at a flower show last year, Malvern flower show last year. It seemed sort of very happy in this spot, and it's a lovely colour. So, and then a few more pots we've potted up with things we've grown from seeds. There's a few Californian daisies in there, Californian poppies, sorry, and we've got cosmos and rudbeckia and salvia. So a nice sort of mix of purple, yellow and white, hopefully. And as I say, a few more. We do like these ferns, and they, you know, kind of, as I say, they golden in autumn, which is also nice. The bulbs in the planter, the tulips that we had, we took out probably a little bit early last week and saved those. Hopefully they'll do some more, and we've sort of supplemented the perennials that we did have coming back here. So we've got this curry plant, for instance. There's a verbena that's going mad. I added the 3 Ami majors, which have done very well because of the heat. And then Aqualegia's coming back nicely. So yeah, hopefully this will give us some sort of summer colour, probably much later. Then the bird feeder bed, we've added quite a bit to this year. A crabapple tree you can see there, and viburnum opulus down here. Also fairly happy with how the box has come back, and just had delivery of seeds for the bird feeder, and didn't take the birds long to find their way back here. This is kind of a bit of a utility area. It's a bit of a thoroughfare. I've split the hooker up this year, and what's left has come back very well, so I'm very happy with that. And you'll see shortly there's quite a few to be transplanted elsewhere. The ivy's looking strong. I cut that back in the early spring. although the deer did a pretty good job of cutting the bottom half of it for me anyway, so that always helps. My mini glass house was moved from the back of the garage to make way for the Aronia Garden, which we'll see later. But that's been extremely productive. It's been at full capacity. We're starting to wind it down now. The heat's probably a bit too much for it, if anything. All sorts of kind of little projects we've tried here. The cuttings of the dahlias that came up, and really just to take advantage of pinching out, but they've taken. We've got a few veg left over in here, but plenty of perennials and wildflowers. These are oxeye daisies, which kind of we've got in abundance, and they were all collected from seeds from our neighbour Lizzie's garden. And we've got cosmos there, we've got zinnias, and down here we've got sort of lettuce and fennel, some beetroot because we've got multiple sowings of those. Lots of basil. Didn't think it was going to do any good, but it's suddenly come into its own with the heat. So various bits and pieces. So yeah, what we've got there, cornflower. We've got white and blue of those. The peppers are absolutely huge, and I actually noticed that those actually starting to almost flower now. And some aubergines there, which I very need, I must pot on next week. So the polytunnel has got pretty hot, amazingly for this time of year. I've just put this makeshift shade up, one to get some breeze through, and to stop the birds getting in, because they'll help themselves to the fruit. So as you can see, there's quite an abundance of green waiting to get planted up here, and we're very, very pleased with the progress we've made here. It makes a big difference being around to take care and feed and water regularly, and I think we would have lost a hell of a lot this year had we not been around. Haven't done all the tomato planting yet, but you can see there those are going strong. In fact, incredibly, there's some down here that have already fruited. So I've never seen fruit on a tomato plant in May here before, which is quite something. We've then got what else have we got here? Copious amounts of potted courgette. You can see here. Again, they're already doing quite nicely. I think they're for tonight's tea. And then we're just bringing in stuffing here really to harden off a little bit, but I think it's almost too hot in here. Thinking about making some coal frames for outside. So here we've got sort of cabbages to go in later. We've got broccoli, lettuce, more lettuce. The tomatoes that will go into this bed here once all of these have been moved out of the way. And then we get on to the various perennials and annuals that we planted. Some ammi here. I think that's verbena, tithonias, some achilleas that we took from seed. A lot of these were collected seeds from last year. So, kind of, I would say about 60% of this is as a result of what we've collected. And then we bought the strawberry beds in from outside, and they're, well, as you can easily see, they're doing brilliantly. We've had fruit off these for, kind of at least 4 or 5 mornings this week so far, and you can see they're ready for picking again. We haven't picked today yet. And then on this bed, we've got some dogwood, some cornus that I took as cuttings. The various cuttings I took or split from the heuchera, some more cornflower. I think we've got Salvias, Rebecca, more verbena, some zinnias, and then I had some spare new potatoes, and they're going like the clappers at the moment, trying to earth those up with some straw. So yeah, pretty. I'm also doing an experiment with trying some cordon I think they're called, is it cordon tomatoes, with in a hanging basket, and never had much luck growing them on the ground, but I threw some seeds in, and yeah, they look a bit happier here than they would do normally. So onto the veg plot, and it's pretty well planted out now. In fact, I think we're at capacity at the moment. So starting off at the far end there, we've got in that bed in the far end is butternut squash. Then in that middle one there we have some French beans, some climbing French beans, which went in this week. And this bed in front, these have been in a while now, but this is just onions doing okay. I think they're struggling a bit in this heat, perhaps, I don't know. But I've noticed a bit of yellowing before anything's formed, so I better keep an eye on that. And then we have some carrots, some fennel. We probably should have taken out the chard a little while ago, but we keep picking at it, and it's tasty, and while there's nothing else, it's pretty good. I think the garlic, I think this is elephant garlic, and it's doing exceptionally well. I think next month we'll be starting to harvest that, or perhaps, you know, kind of into August maybe. More courgettes. Yeah, we like our courgettes, so I think we've got an abundant supply of those. The mint is doing very well in the heat. Of course, we've put some pots in there. They've been very, good to attract the pollinators. You'll see those dotted around. Our leaf bed, we put in some early lettuce, and it's paid off, so we're picking that all the while. A few more beetroots in pots, just to make use of space. Different leaves. Bed of new potatoes, which I thought I lost in one of the frosts. I didn't cover it over quickly enough. But it seems to have come back strong. We lost a few of the younger leaves, but it seems fine now. The comfrey, we've already done a first pick off, and we've got enough. The orchard is doing quite nicely. Everything's sort of flowered well. We don't expect to get any cherries. The birds will get those first. We've done pretty well again with the pears. We never get round to picking them in time, but hopefully this year we will. I've also taken the measure of we had like 5 or 6 on each bud, and I've taken it just down to 2. Still plenty of them, but we want more of the energy to go into the fruit rather than having lots of small fruit. Debbie's little project, she made this little bee hotel that unfortunately she planted out some wildflowers on top of it, but the squirrels seem to be just using that as a bit of a sand bath, I think. Various apple trees, and then these beds, we've got some runner beans, which literally have doubled in size in about 3 days. We've been harvesting the rhubarb for quite a while, and it looks like the second blush of those is coming through now. The more French beans, these ones are dwarf French beans. Good for the freezer, so kind of whatever we don't eat now, gets saved through to the winter. A good supply of beetroot, the first sowing of those. Some more beans. So we've got a good mix. These plants are rescued from one of the beds. We've split them out. They all go into the Aronia Garden. and I think we're going to have our best year yet for both the blackcurrants and the raspberries. Blueberries not so much. The 3 plants we've got, 2 of them are now not flowering, so I've got to work out what's gone wrong there and fix that. And then we've got an autumn bed of raspberries as well, which are doing quite nicely for this stage in the season. So yeah, that's the tour of the veg plot. It's coming on quite nicely, I think. I've just got to make sure it's well watered. Took the decision this year to not mow the entire lawn, and we wanted to see what sort of wildflowers are hidden, kind of in this. So we just left patches, and it was really nice to see the movement of the longer grasses from the house. And then, kind of we've had the surprise of spotting at least, kind of in this section, probably about 10, 12 different. We've got these oxeye daisies, I think they are, that have appeared. We've had plenty of, forgive me, kind of various other daisy types. I haven't got round to identifying sort of everything that's come up, but it's just a beautiful array of colour throughout, particularly nearer to the woodland area. Kind of where we've got such a variety of different types of daisies and veg. So there's a lovely patch of colour here, and they start off like an orange colour, and then they turn to this beautiful yellow. So yeah, it's turned out well here. The lack of any rain in the past few days, well, past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's caused us 1 or 2 problems. It's not really possible that I can go and water that. I think I might have cut the grass a bit too frequently. Should have left it perhaps last week. We haven't cut it this week, and probably won't cut it next either. But yeah, it's good that the the edges provide a little bit of greenery. We lost this tree last year. It literally leaned over. You can see from the bottom it was rotten anyway. But the guys who came to cut it down persuaded me to leave this bit. I just thought they'd just got fed up and ran out of time. So, but they persuaded me to leave it because they sort of, it might just shoot again. And I'm delighted to say that you can see there that it's actually done very well. It's a willow that's recovering nicely. I don't think it's going to provide the greatest shape in the world, but kind of it's a habitat, I suppose. And we've seen birds hopping in and out of the hollows looking for insects, and we've got a huge amount of timber, which I've got a plan to create a bit of a seating area in different places using those, if I could perhaps do a workout lifting them. This was a project that Deb and I undertook in February of this year, just prior to all of the lockdown. We planted, and they're all from the Woodland Trust, a collection of different sort of seasonal colour trees. So we've got there's some hawthorn in there, which obviously provides a bit of white sort of blossom, I suppose you'd call it, flowering. And then I think there are dogwoods in there. There are hazels. I think there's wild cherry amongst it. Nice, as I say, nice and mixed. And they're all, then there's no mix. Oh, look, we've got a visitor. Oh, didn't quite catch the visitor coming out of the grasses there. There's a baby, mother and baby here. We might stumble upon the baby, but anyway, back to the woodland. The growth, if that works. But the growth is quite nice in all of them. I keep inspecting, and they seem to be doing absolutely fine. So I don't know when they're going to come out the tops of these tubes, but hopefully pretty soon. We've got a way to go yet, though. Just another example there. So on the field now, which is the one we're trying to turn into a natural meadow. And you can see it's quite lush and green, probably, you know, kind of a bit too green than we wanted. Again, you know, we're getting some wildflowers come through, lots of daisies, and I think it's veg, and we were just waiting to see what a number of them are. There's certainly plenty of different things we can spot. I'll try and spot an example as we're walking of the yellow rattle that we sowed in abundance at the end of last year. The yellow rattle's the first part of rescuing the ground from all of its grasses, because they're a parasite seed, but they're a beautiful little flower. So yeah, we're sort of quite hopeful, because there's quite a number of them that have taken. So there's, you know, quite a bit of variety in there already, and we've seen things like speedwell and lady smock, I think it's called, and lots of primroses as well at the right time of year. So yeah, it's proving quite, you know, quite successful. You can see a lot of the yellow of the yellow rattle in amongst the grasses there. There's a techno bird in the background I was hoping to capture, but he's gone shy. This is the path that I've mowed through the long grass. It's a lovely walk around both fields, and very peaceful when you're watching the long grass sway, or, you know, spotting the deer as you scare them out of their beds that they've created amongst this this camouflage. So the final stop is for the Aronia Garden, which has been my project for most of the lockdown and the summer so far. As you can see, it's the side of the garage is where all of the building materials used to be kept, and a lot of rubbish was just thrown there to put out of the way. I'd say about 80% of what we've done here is kind of reclaimed. So the fencing that you can see in the foreground, that was on the field, and we'd taken it out. The netting was part of that as well. The scaffold boards to keep the rabbits out, they were part of the build project. All the logs were taken from the ash trees very early on when we arrived, and I've cut those up to form a border. The willow hurdle I've sort of created at the back there, that's all sort of coppiced from various parts of the garden. The trees we bought from a local nursery, and again the Euonymus, and I think the hooker are again taken from other parts of the garden. So this is sort of going to be a section of the garden where, you know, the wild meets the cultivated, but hopefully in a natural style. Even the soil there, that was all molehills. We have bought in about 4 tons of compost and soil to add to it, but so that gets planted out hopefully next week. A bit more rabbit proofing to be done before we finally plant it out. And then the other bit of reclamation was the bed that I built out of decking boards that were left over from a very old, you know, kind of piece of decking we had. And again, the hooker have been replanted, the Ami majors from seeds, and then we bought two climbing roses, which hopefully will make their way up that wall and cover it eventually. And then finally another small bed will go in here, and we hope to grow something up the wall, but this year probably just leave it for different perennials. one more sort of planter, again a collection of things we've grown from seed and perennials that have come back for a second year. Added different colours to that. Not a lot happening at the moment, but it's a bit early. And the patio still has all of the lavender, which we keep on saying this might be the last year. So we're going to take cuttings this year and grow some on, and hopefully that will be its replacement in a year or two's time. But not much sign of flowering yet. It's a bit early yet, but yeah, still not bad. Well, if you've come this far, you've done exceptionally well. Thanks very much for joining me on the tour. I hope it gave you an insight. I've done it real time, so it's probably dragged on a bit for you really. I've just been talking as to whatever comes into my head at the time. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it.